Jana,
Hey,
hi. We're
I'm
talking
excited
about,
today.
I know, we're talking about delegating social media today.
Yes. Yep. Like the idea is what would we do if we were delegating social media now?
Yeah.
Um, and I will start by sharing that I haven't done a lot of delegating social media over the years. I've dabbled in it here and there, but I don't mind doing my own social media. And also, I don't do that much of it as far as a volume. And it's something I do a lot of repurposing from my blog with, obviously, because that's what I teach.
Hmm.
And so I've always kind of like done most of it myself. However, I have over the years had some experiences, some better than others, with delegating for a little while. Like I delegated Instagram for a while. Right now, I'm actually experimenting with occasionally from time to time for like 2 weeks at a time, delegating certain campaigns on threads,
Yeah.
which basically looks like I have a threads agency that's doing like certain campaigns, but I'm also there and present doing some of the work on threads myself. So I'm not just like whipping my hands clean of it.
Yeah.
So, but I've had a lot of different experiences over the years. Like I said, sometimes it worked well, sometimes it didn't. I also have had a lot of experiences with people, well, not people really, but mostly Kay, my client for that I worked with for years, where I did her social media. And it wasn't really like I was her social media manager. I was repurposing content from her long form content to
Yeah.
her social media channels to get the best leverage from it, which is one of the experiences that was very formative for me in creating the system that I have now today, where we create a capsule blog and then repurpose from it, including most of what you need for social media. So I'm excited today because I feel like I have some ideas about how to help people figure out how to get good results from delegating social media. Because I know sometimes like people try to do it and get lackluster results and are like bummed out by it. So, how about you?
Yeah.
Have you done delegation of social media content over the years? Is it something that you have hired for?
Yeah, I have. I've tried to hire for it in a few different capacities and I've always been
Mm,
disappointed by it.
mm,
I think the best experience I've had is, and I didn't hire Teresa for this, but we have often traded, services or whatever.
mm.
And one of the things that she's done for me in the past is sent me topics of things to post on channels like TikTok and Instagram, for
That's
example. Is
interesting. Okay.
really good with like she's really good with social media.
Mm, yeah.
And but other than that, I've just always had really lackluster results with
Mm,
either posts like sharing, oh, hey, I have this video and I want an Instagram post, or I
yep.
want Threads wasn't around when I was delegating, but like I want
Hmm.
Threads posts or whatever. It's never really been what I've wanted. So I think I'm actually like a case, like I could be a case study for using your system and implementing it and then getting a good system in place and then delegating that to my team. And I've actually been thinking about this as we were coming up on this topic. Like, I bought Riverside for the year during Black Friday, and I haven't really used it very much
Mm.
personally. I don't know if Sarah's using it for creating transcripts or not from YouTube videos, but we have this entire tool. How can I get the most out of it for the year?
Yeah.
And then here comes this topic. So I'm actually feeling really good about talking about this today because I feel like I can learn
Yeah.
from you.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, today my plan is to share like exactly the steps that I would take, probably like 5 or 6 steps, I think, if I think about it, based on what I have seen that works. And when I say what I've seen that works, I mean that for myself over the years, there have been, like I said, times when I hired for social media and it didn't work. And I looked at that and thought, okay, why didn't it work? And there have been times when hired for social media for stints and it worked really well for a while. I mean, not saying that it worked well and then it stopped working. I just mean like if I hired for a certain finite period of time
Hmm.
for a certain like campaign or set of campaigns, meaning like leading up to a launch or
Yeah.
um, when I'm, building brand awareness for a couple of months for a new offer, things like that. So I'm going to share like what I've seen that works and the steps that you really need to take. And then I've also had um, Probably, I would say 5 students that I can think of in HLC who I know of, and there are probably others who I don't know of because I've had, over 300 people come through HLC, and some of them come through and learn what they need and then stick around in the program and,
Yeah.
hang out and share what they know and continue to build. And other people get what they need and then like move on and don't stay in touch, which is fine. That's the way it's designed, depending on what you need. And sometimes people circle back too. But of all the people that I know of that have delegated social media and shared with me what their experiences are like, I've also seen again what works and what doesn't. It's probably like I can think of like 4 or 5 people who've done it really successfully, and then I can think of people who've said to me, "Oh my God, I've tried and it didn't work." And I said, "Okay, tell me what you tried. Did you try this? Did you do this?" And when it didn't work, there are certain things that they didn't do. So today that's kind of like what's on my list of things that I have learned over the 9 years of doing it myself, being the person for years for Kay, who was doing it for her as well.
Mhm.
And then a lot of my students and clients over the years. So yeah.
Good. Okay.
Mm. All right. Want me to dive
Yeah.
into what I think needs to be done?
Yeah, let's hear it because
All
chances
right.
are I have enough content to follow your system. So
Oh,
yeah,
I think so.
just a matter of
For
getting
sure. Yeah.
consistent.
I mean, I will tell you, I'll skip to that part really quick since you mentioned it. I tell my students now that you should not delegate social media or any kind of content creation, which really is content repurposing in my system, until you have at least 4 minimum long form pieces of content. And even beyond that, I want them to continue to build their library so that their team always has, um, a growing library of content to pull from. Um, do I think you could get away with only having 4 blog posts and repurpose to social media forever and reuse all that stuff? Yeah, probably. But I think you need, to when you hit 4, which is milestone 1 inside of HLC, high leverage content, where you've published 4 pieces of long form content, you're still working towards building your full library, which is 12 to 20. Excuse me, I'm still a little froggy this morning. But that's when I think you have the minimum viable amount of content where you can hire someone to be on your team or outsource to a content repurposing VA, content repurposing manager, social media manager who is focused on content repurposing, not so much creation from scratch when you have those 4 blog posts to start. So, do you have enough content to do that? Yeah, Heather. Yeah. Yes, you do. You have
Yeah.
hundreds of blog posts and YouTube videos. You are a content repurposing manager's dream. So, for sure. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I jump in, any reactions to that?
I'm shocked that I have enough content. Okay.
Shocked,
Color me
shocked.
shocked.
Right. Okay. So as I realize it, looking at my notes, it's like 5 things that I wanted to talk about. The first one is that in the beginning, before I even think about delegating content repurposing slash social media to someone, I would be making sure that kind of like with ads that since you're paying for this and you're investing in it, that you're pouring fuel on an already lit fire. Meaning that let's say you have, some kindling and some wood out on the fire pit, but there's no spark, there's no flame, and you go out there and you're like pouring, accelerant on it. What's going to happen? Nothing, because there's no spark or flame to begin with. And in this analogy, the spark or the flame really, in my opinion, needs to be 2 critical pieces. So number one, the first step is, and this is what I tell my students who remember a lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them are a little bit newer to online business and newer to online marketing, and they're still figuring out a marketing system that's going to work for them. So the first step is I would get super clear on exactly who I'm talking to in my content. So that's like a target audience that's specific enough, so it can't be like all women or, anyone who wants to, work toward their dreams or anything that's really vague. You really need to get specific because it's going to be really hard for someone to create content for you or repurpose content if you're not sure who those people are that you're writing for. And then also, this is the other key piece of it, what problems your paid offer solves for those people. These 2 things to me are the linchpins that make everything else work. And they're also the things that are missing when I see people really like pulling teeth, trying to get people to look at their content. No one wants to look at it. Then they think to themselves, oh, I'll just hire somebody to create marketing for me and maybe that'll solve it. Well, it doesn't because you still aren't clear on who you're talking to and what problems you're solving. There are other pieces of a strong messaging, like strategy, I guess you could call it. But to
Yeah.
me, those two things are the most critical. And that's why, like, I baked those into the beginning of like the first third of HLC, where we get clear on what exactly our audience needs from us and our content to feel ready to buy. And we do our content plan and choose our topics. So that's the first thing I would say is ask yourself and be real with yourself. Do you know exactly who you're talking to? Um, and do you, and it doesn't have to be demographic, you know, I mean, there's different ways to think about it. Like for you, you have a lot of different demographics, but mostly, at least right now in this iteration of your business, you have people who want to know how to use Pinterest as one of their main marketing platforms. And you teach other pieces of marketing as well. But that's really like, that's the desire that they have. And so you have like corralled people in that clear way. Um, so those are the two things that I would start with, and then we can kind of move on to the tactical things. But none of the tactical things are going to work unless you have gotten clear on who and also the problems that you're solving for people. That is huge to me. I see people all the time struggling with their marketing, and so often I feel like it comes down to not having articulated what problems they're solving. I'll say like, what problems are you solving in your business? And they'll say, well, I help women to you know, identify what they really want in life because they're feeling stuck and, work towards those goals or something like that. And that's vague, but it also, the other issue with it is that you're not really articulating specific problems. You're talking about goals.
Yeah.
And goals are important too, but problems are the most important part of your messaging. So that's where I would start. And then we can move on to the more interesting tactical things that people probably are really wondering about when it comes to content repurposing. But I think that's where we start. What do you think about that?
I
What do
really,
you think?
yeah, I really resonate with the piece of like not knowing what problems that you solve.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of people start online businesses because they think that it's the thing that they need to do to make money.
Hmm.
And ultimately, maybe they create a website and start blogging. I too fell into this trap actually and didn't know what problems I was solving or even what my audience needed. I was just throwing
Yep.
spaghetti at the wall, and there's always a time and place for throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Absolutely. It's so normal to start off like that. Yep.
But you should not be hiring people to help you if you have not
Throw
figured
spaghetti at
these
the wall.
things out.
Right.
No. Please don't
Yeah.
hire people to throw spaghetti at the wall. I
Yep.
feel like a foundational mistake that people make when hiring other people to do social media marketing is because they feel like, well, I feel this pressure to do social media, but I don't have the time. So maybe I can hire someone else. But if you don't
Hmm.
have these few keys to the kingdom before hiring someone, then how is that person going to help you get to your goals?
Right. Yeah,
So
exactly. It's that simple. Yeah. Well said.
I
Yep.
just like don't burn cash.
Yeah.
Please
Yep.
don't. Don't
Hmm.
do that. So,
Yep.
anyways,
Yep.
next.
Yes. So the next one, two, three things would be foundational work to do to get ready to be able to have somebody creating social media content for you. And again, I'll just say it again. It's really more in my world, it's more about repurposing.
Yeah.
Because I would say that if you hire someone, the expectation should be that about 90% of what they're creating for you is just repurposed from your own content.
Okay.
That way there's some room for creativity and room for like, oh, that was cool that she like came up with that idea that I wouldn't have otherwise. But 90% of it should be stuff that you've already articulated somewhere else so that you're not letting someone else like make up your thought leadership, basically.
No.
So the second step, the first of these like foundational things is I would make a brand style guide. So some people already have something that's similar to this, but I think you need to go deeper when you're ready to hire. So yes, it should have your visuals because if someone's going to create graphics for you somewhere on some platform, you need to be able to like tell them what your colors are, your fonts, give them photos of you or whatever if that's what you're going to be using. But I think it needs to go deeper than that too. A brand style guide should also be about like your different like writing style and tone. You should start by spending about a half an hour brainstorming and looking at your existing writing content. And you can even like use ChatGPT to help you with this and analyze like pieces of content that you've already written to figure out the answers to questions like what types of punctuation do you like to use and not use? So, for example, do you use a lot of ellipses? Or is that something you don't really use? Do you
Yeah.
use M dashes or is it not something you do? Semicolons. Do you do one space after periods, two spaces after periods, things like that? Um, do you use casual language sometimes? Like I noticed recently that somebody who was creating some content on Threads for me had used like the term, I don't know, IDUNNO. That's so not my style. I wouldn't say that.
No, I've
So
never seen you say that ever.
yeah. So I would write, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I would actually, so listing out as many of those things as you can think of. And then phrases that I say, I like to have a section of this document that says like phrases that I say, like capsule blog, and I define what it is. I say content treadmill, but I don't say content hamster wheel. That's not something
Yeah.
I usually say. So again, if someone's writing content for me and they want to talk about that feeling of always having to feel like you have to put out more and more and more, to me, I call that the content treadmill. And I don't want them to just come out of the blue and call it the content hamster wheel because that doesn't sound like me, right?
Right.
So thinking about all those things, my client Kay had on her list things like she always used to say crazy pants whenever she was like, oh my God, that's crazy pants. And she would say, shut the front door. Like that was like, so things like that that are like, you know, Kayisms or Jana-isms or Heatherisms can be in your
Yep.
list. And having this list is so great. And then what you do is you basically keep adding to it. So anytime you see somebody that you've delegated content to, write something that's not what you would write, you give them feedback on that quickly and you add it to the list, right?
Yep.
So having a document like that is going to like help so much with that feeling of like, oh gosh, that didn't sound like me. That's not on brand for me. You know, I don't really speak that way, things like that. And it's going to help that person so much with the specificity. So that's how I would go about having a brand style guide. It's not just about the colors and things like that. It's also about how you want to show up with your words. And of
Yep.
course, I'm a word girl, so that's the stuff I kind of focus on more anyway, right?
I recently had a client and I made templates for them for Pinterest that
Hmm.
they um because they didn't have any, and they sent me their brand style guide and also their brand guidelines, which were
Hmm.
completely it's like that's like who they are and like what they
Hmm.
represent and all that stuff.
Yes, yes.
And I basically like took their style guide and made pin templates that looked like the style guide because that's what their website looked like. So I
Right.
looked at both and then made pin templates and it
Yep.
was so good.
Yeah.
The only feedback I got was we don't want to use this logo, we want to use this one, and we want the grid to be slightly less curved. I
Mm.
was like, hallelujah! I'm
Yeah, that's great.
winning at life.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. See, the person who you're delegating to appreciates this so much. Like why, why pay them extra to like, you know, especially if you're paying like hourly. I know people don't pay you hourly, but
No,
you know, to like come up with all these different like iterations so that you can decide. Like they're not your branding strategist, they're your, you know, content repurposer or social media creator, not,
yeah,
you know, not somebody who is going to recreate your brand. So, yeah, I like that a lot. I think that having that and thinking of it as a living, breathing document where you're always adding things, and you can even encourage the person who's working with you to add things to the document if you want to. And then you could just have a system where you have to approve it before, you know, it goes into the official document, something like that.
yes.
So yeah, that's the next step. And then when I've done this successfully, I have also found it's helpful for me to make a Loom video when I'm onboarding someone new, where I go through my like maybe 20 different past posts on the platform that I'm delegating. So let's say I'm delegating Instagram for a couple months.
Hmm.
I would go through and I would like make maybe a 15-minute video for them to watch where I'm going through some of my favorite posts and pointing out reasons why I think they worked and letting them know where I think there are opportunities to reuse what I've already done.
Yep.
Because I think sometimes when I've hired people, they think that in order to like earn their money, they need to like reinvent the wheel. And that's not at all what I want them to do. I actually want them to just be like blasting out my thought leadership and like amplifying what I've already written and created. And so going through and saying like, oh, this one would be a great one to just recreate. Like you could literally use the same thing. If you want to just the
Yeah.
caption a little bit, great. If you want to, but you don't have to, you could just, you know, use a new image and repost this, for example, right? Um, so just being really clear about like what your expectations are there and making a video where you walk through and kind of talk about why you think things worked and what you want to see more of and maybe what you want to see less of as well.
Yeah.
So that would be the next step. And then my fourth step, of course, this is going to be no shock to anyone who knows me, is that you want to be creating what I call a capsule library. I like to do it on your blog. That's the easiest place for somebody to repurpose from, but it could be YouTube or a podcast as well, but you'll need transcripts if you're going to do it that way.
Yes.
So a capsule blog or a capsule library, if it's other types of long form content, is 12 to 20 pieces of robust, pretty long, usually not like overly long, but long enough that there's a lot in it to repurpose. Um, Pieces of long form content that cover all the key things that your audience needs from your content to feel ready to buy.
Yep.
And in my program, there's three phases. The first one is we identify what people need to feel ready to buy. That's how we choose our topics. Then we write the capsule library, the blog topics, and then we move into the repurposing phase where I share all my best techniques and workflows for repurposing from the capsule library to other places in your marketing. So you can use your capsule library like all up and down your marketing.
Hmm.
And that is like absolutely key because this is going to be the fodder that people need to repurpose and create micro content in places like social media, for example, because today we're talking about delegating social media that
Yep.
actually reflects your thought leadership. And you can decide and give them a system if they need one. Like if you're hiring a VA, you might need to give them a system to do this. If you're
Yep.
hiring like a social media manager, they may already have a system, but you can ask them when you're hiring them if they want you to give them a system or if they have a system to repurpose from your blog. And I teach a system on repurposing like every 2 weeks cycling through, but that's not the only way to do it. So someone might come to you with a plan to do that already, but you really want to make sure if that's your expectation that whoever you're hiring already has a strategy or you give them one for repurposing from your blog.
Yeah.
So building the capsule library and then using that as your like source of truth to draw all the other micro messages from, 90% of it, I would say, is the fourth of the five steps that I would say needs to happen before you're ready to really hire someone and get good ROI for social media.
And I think I want to go back and touch on something just briefly because, sorry, I stole your shoes. Um, I want to go back and touch on something just briefly, and this is really like core to Heather's pre-entrepreneurship journey. I went to school for management and accounting, okay?
Yeah.
So have like I'm going to make a caveat and go back to something Jana said, but I really, really, really think that it's important for you not only to prepare your system and to hire someone to do this, but
Hmm.
don't just like walk away from it. This is something that I have done. I have made this mistake too many times, and I'm telling you, it is bad leadership.
Yeah.
You want to have someone that is successful on your team, that's excited to work for you, that's excited to do the work that you want them to do.
Hmm.
You have to give them feedback, and it needs to be
Yeah.
constructive.
Yep.
So if you see something that you don't like, don't just delete it and redo it.
Yes.
Actually take a second to maybe film a loom or do some
Yep.
screenshots and then show them what they did that you don't like, but don't just
Yep.
say, this is terrible. Please never do this again. Like,
Right.
I don't like this because, and
Yep.
then do it your way and show them the difference. That way they have something
Yep.
to compare to.
Yep.
That way the next time they come to this piece of content or this decision making, they have the skills to know how to make this decision for your business to get the outcome
Yes.
that you want them to have.
Right.
People cannot learn from what's in your brain if you don't take it out and give it to them.
Right.
So if they
Yep.
make a
Totally.
mistake, give them some grace. Okay, we're not saying that you should fire them immediately. I'm saying we have to show them what was wrong, why it was wrong, and how to do it differently.
Yep.
Otherwise,
Yep.
it's always going to be wrong and you're never going to get what you want. And then you're going to ultimately feel frustrated. And the
Yep.
problem then isn't bad hire. It's not bad hiring, it's bad delegation and bad leadership.
Yes, bad leadership, I think is really the way to say it. And delegation, you're right. Yep, for sure. And I am always learning this as well, and remembering this to be quite honest, because I
Yeah.
still have this little voice in my head sometimes that creeps in, especially when I'm hiring another professional that
Hmm.
says like, oh, they know what they're doing. Let them do their job. Don't be a micromanager.
Yep.
Um, and every time I think that, I feel like it bites me in the butt in the sense that like I think like a week later or a month later or even a day later, oh, I really should have just said that. I should have told them, even if they're a
Hmm.
professional, that, oh no, that's not exactly right. Let me give you feedback so that you can do it again next time in a way that's
Mhm.
closer to, what I'm expecting. Because even the professionals, um, A, need that, and B, actually really appreciate that. They would much rather have you do that than, in a respectful way, obviously, than have you
Yeah,
not say anything and continue to, do it in a way that is not going to work for your business. They want results as
yeah,
much as you do, right? So,
for sure. Um,
yep.
Another little anecdote from that same client I just made templates for is I wrote all the copy and everything, made the pins, mocked them up, and sent them over. And the client was like, okay, well, I'm just going to tweak the copy a little bit before you schedule these pins. Great. That's fantastic, actually, because now you have the, this version. And once someone in your team takes this over, now they have your finalized version so they can kind of see the difference. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
We need to know what you don't like, so then we can post what you do like. And
Yeah.
then as these mistakes are made, document them through the process and through your system of
Yeah.
we don't want it this way, we want it this way. Or we don't say dunno, D-U-N-N-O, we say I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um,
And add it to that document, for
Add
example,
it
in
to your
this
document.
case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And, sometimes, and what happens is people start to be able to extrapolate from that. So they also know that if I don't want to say I don't know like that, instead I want to say I don't know, then they probably also know that I don't want to say, like, I can't think of another example, but another one of
I
those
need
kind of
K.
like, yeah, that might be another one. And that's actually kind of like even a different thing. Like, do you use abbreviations? Do you use text speak, right? In your
Yeah.
writing? Because some people do. For some people, that's on brand. For other people, it's not. So, but yeah, that's such good advice. And I was even going to say, like, when your what said to you, I'm going to switch up the copy before we publish,
Mhm.
would it have been appropriate for you to say, oh, that's great. While you're doing it, would you make me a Loom video and tell me like what you're changing and why so that next time you won't have to do it? I, can start getting, a closer output the first time to, to what you need type of thing.
For me in this situation, no, because it was a VIP month, so they were
Okay.
doing one and done.
Yeah.
But if they do have someone come in and do Pinterest later, it could be really good for those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And then this is kind of in relation to that, but once you've created at least 4 pieces of content in your capsule blog, I still want you building the rest of your capsule blog up to 12 or anywhere between 12 and 20 is what I recommend. You get to
Hmm.
decide where you want to be in that 12 to 20. But once you have 4 pieces, that's where I feel like you have enough critical mass to be able to delegate. And one thing I highly recommend to my students if they're delegating is that they take one of their blog posts that they wrote and make a loom. We love loom around here,
You do?
and walk through that blog post for the person who is creating their social content, social media content,
Yep.
and literally point out the different gems, I call them gems, but different pieces of the blog post that you could imagine turning into smaller pieces of micro content, or that you even already have turned into micro content in the past, because repetition is actually good. It's what we want. That's a whole nother
Yep.
topic. Um, and making sure that your person knows that too. When you're saying like, oh, you could do this. I actually did that once and it worked really well. Make sure they know that that means they can do it again. Because if you did it once and it worked well, it probably will work
Yep.
well again. And walking through that and identifying at least 10 pieces of micro content in that blog post that your person can use over the next, couple of weeks or a month or whatnot to create micro content. And it's not that you're telling them exactly what to do for the next 2 weeks, but you're giving them examples of how you mine your long form content for the smaller pieces of micro content. So
Yep.
you might say, like, this right here is a really good, like, spicy belief statement that you could use, and pull from. And then this right here would make a great caption for, an infographic. And
Yep.
these, where I have these like 3 steps to a process in this blog post, that would also make a great little like, like carousel, or even if you're talking about Instagram, or even like a basic infographic with like 3 steps to achieve a certain goal that, my ideal audience really wants. So walking
Yep.
them through it just once, it's not like you're going to do that every time. Although you could if you had somebody who you felt needed that support. Like, if you're hiring, like, for example, a VA who's just getting used to doing this, it might be a good idea to actually do that once a month for someone and give them all the pieces, right? Like you
Yeah.
can actually do that if that fits into your system and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's something that I've done and recommended to my students that's worked really well. And then the last step was just providing feedback early. And that was really what we were, what you were talking about earlier was being quick to jump in and provide feedback. Don't like, make the mistake of waiting and saying, well, she just started a week ago. I'm going to let her get her rhythm before I give feedback. No, like let's give feedback, in real time. So,
Yeah, and ideally before your VA or whoever you hire starts actually publishing, they create content and then you take a look at it so you can give feedback before it goes live. Then you're not, scanning your feeds to make sure that the content
right,
looks good.
right. That's the
Um,
last thing you want to be doing.
no, we don't want to
In,
be doing
in,
it
in the beginning,
after.
it's okay, but like you want to get to the point where you're feeling confident that it's close enough that you're not going to be embarrassed by anything that someone puts out. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just like a reminder that when you do hire someone to help you with your social media or your Pinterest marketing or whatever it is, you're not hiring them to post content tomorrow, although maybe you are. Like, we should be thinking in advance, two, three
Mm,
weeks from now,
mhm.
publishing content. That way we have some time to really collaborate, iron out our workflow together because now we're two humans working on one project and you're the brains of this operation. You're driving the ship, but
Yep.
I'm coming into this and I have to get my feet under me. So don't hire expecting things to be turned around tomorrow. That's
Yep.
just unfair to the person that you're hiring and you're setting them up
Yep.
for failure.
Yep. And I think there's a relation to that from something we kind of already said, but I'm going to call out explicitly again. I really don't like the idea of hiring somebody thinking that they're going to create content for you from scratch.
Right.
And if you're hiring somebody and thinking, oh, I'll hire them today and by tomorrow they'll be posting on my social media, that probably means that you think they're going to be making stuff up. And that is absolutely the ticket to, you know, that doesn't sound like me,ville. You know, like that's where you're going to be like, oh man, no, that's not what I would have posted. That whoa, no, that's either embarrassing or not even what I think. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, no, 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 like that's not consistent with my philosophy on, intuitive eating or on what I believe about the content treadmill or whatever it is that you talk about and help people within your offer. So,
Yeah.
yeah, really, really good point. This is not something that should be, just hire somebody and hope that they can like, hire somebody as like a Hail Mary and, hope they can catch it kind of thing. Like with anything, you need a good system. So,
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
system can be built over time, right? It's
Of
not like you
course.
have to be perfect, but these are the things we just went through, the 6 steps
Hmm.
that I think are going to really set you up best to get the best results from this type of thing and get the best for your money in
Yeah.
the least amount of prep time and system building time.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. What else is on your list?
Well, I wanted to tell everybody a quick story about my HLC student, Naomi.
Okay.
She is a somatics coach and practitioner. And when she joined HLC, she had like no audience. Basically, she had just a few social media followers that were like, people from her past life and people from like, college and high school and, her family and people like that. And she had literally no one on her email list, but she had her email marketing software set up and she was ready to add people.
Hmm.
But she was concerned, when she joined about hiring, I'm sorry, concerned about joining HLC because she had such a small following and she fell in love with the idea that I had told her about in my marketing that you can build a capsule library and then hire someone to repurpose it to social media for you. She had already decided she wanted to do LinkedIn. She decided that that's where she would want to start putting content and reaching out to people who could be potential um, clients for her in her area, but also referral partners. Um, like she wanted to network with physicians' offices in particular to get clients in her, not just in her area, because she also does work online with some consulting, but some in-person clients as well. Um, but she was like nervous because she had no audience, right? And so we talked about how she could actually leverage the content as she's building it, as she's building her capsule library. When she gets to 4 pieces, she can begin the delegation process and start leveraging the content to actually grow her audience. And she ended up hiring someone that I referred her to start repurposing her content. The content repurposing manager that she hired was like in love with her content because it was so good. She did such a good job like writing really good, persuasive, useful, helpful, um, robust content. And she was, of course, following the HLC outlines. So she had a lot of great points she was making in her blog posts. And that content repurposing manager started repurposing her content to LinkedIn in several different ways, posting, contacting people in DMs with like links to her blog posts, things like that. Not just cold, but it's a, there's a strategy there. And she actually went from like zero audience to, I think she had like 800 connections on LinkedIn within 90 days of doing this work. And she was basically building the plane as she was flying it, right? She built her first 4 blog posts, delegated at that point, and while she was onboarding that content repurposing manager who was starting to grow her LinkedIn presence, she also was writing, carving out time to write more blog posts. And so there were more blog posts coming into the process that the content repurposing manager had as fodder for additional posts. I think she got to 18 before she stopped blogging because you don't need to blog forever. You just blog in my system until you have your capsule library done, and then you just turn all your energy to repurposing. Not all my students have the means to be able to hire a repurposing manager that quickly, but Naomi had a very like it wasn't an established practice, but she already had some clients, but she was needing to like double her client load basically. And she knew that this was like the way to do it because in order to double her client load, she was going to be spending more time with clients because she wasn't hiring like another somatics coach. It was all her. And she wanted to have somebody on her team doing really doing LinkedIn for her is what she wanted, and really going all in on that platform. So she, took that strategy, and ran with it, and it worked really well for her. And every once in a while, I check in on them, and she's getting clients and consults booked on LinkedIn like all the time now. And she started with no following, she's growing her email list with LinkedIn as well, like all with repurposed content from her capsule blog. So it's definitely possible to do it, and I wanted to share that because I know a lot of people find that story inspiring. So
That's really incredible. And
yeah,
I like that she was building it as she was going,
yeah.
knowing that she kind of had this goal in mind. That's so good.
Mhm.
Congratulations to you, Naomi. That's like such
Yeah,
good work.
yep,
I feel the same way in a lot of ways because as I started rebuilding my business from 2019 to 2020, when I had that huge like drop
drop
off,
off. Yep, I
um,
remember.
I started YouTube at the very end of 2019, and
Hmm.
then we obviously had a brief pause in the moment that we were like moving out of our RV into our home in Tucson, and then I
Yep.
started seriously on YouTube that summer after I painted my living room.
That was like when
Um,
COVID started, right? That you moved
yeah,
from, yep, back to
it
Arizona. Yep.
was,
Or
and
to
I painted
Arizona.
the those ugly walls from that ugly like eggshell color to white just in the office area because I needed it to
For
not
your
look so
background for YouTube.
dank. Yeah.
That's so wild. Yeah.
And then I hired Sonia and we just started building.
Yeah. Yep. And that was the
So
Clubhouse era too. That was the
it
beginning
was.
of our Clubhouse era when we had our Pinterest club on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just, I think you just have to get going sometimes. And
Yeah.
if you have good guidance and you have a good system, um,
You can build the plane while you're flying it.
you can build the plane while you're flying it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, what
Mhm.
else do you have for us?
I think that's it, really.
Awesome.
Yeah, so those I can do like a quick summary maybe of those 6 steps that we talked about. And this is literally what I would do if I was, if someone came to me today and was like, you need to delegate your Instagram entirely to somebody, or delegate, you need to start on LinkedIn. I'm not on it right now, but you need to start today and like delegate it entirely. This is literally the steps I would take.
Yeah.
Drawn from all my years of being on both sides, delegating content, repurposing, and social media to people, being the one that people were delegating that to, just really, really my client K. Of course, I did tons of Pinterest, content repurposing and
Yeah.
creation for people over the years too. Um, so number one, getting super clear on who you're talking to and knowing at least of all the messaging things out there that you need to know first, I think you definitely need to know what key problems, like at least 3, that your offer is solving for people, and being able to articulate those and make sure that they are real problems that people talk about, that people think about every day, in their words. So that's the first thing. Second thing is making a brand style guide that has not only the visuals, but also all the different writing style things that are do's and don'ts that you can think of for your business. Third is making a loom where you go through 20 of your past posts on that platform. If you're delegating a platform that you already are doing, right? Talking about what worked, what didn't, what you like, what you don't, what you think can be reused, things like that. That'd be like maybe a 15-minute video. Step four is creating a capsule library of 12 to 20 key blog posts, covering all the things that your audience needs from your content to feel ready to buy. And that's what I teach how to do inside of my program.
Yep.
Number five is if you have someone a little bit greener who you've hired, like maybe a VA, not so much like a social media expert content creator, making a loom, walking through a blog post and pointing out 10 different pieces in your blog post that can be repurposed, not only for them to use that in the moment, but also to get an idea of like what you're expecting and how you want them to be thinking about repurposing your blog stuff.
Okay.
And then for providing feedback early and often so that you can more quickly optimize the process and give them the feedback they need to improve as they go. So those are
Great.
the steps.
Awesome. I think that this is a really solid place for people to start if they're thinking about repurposing. And if you are a service provider providing these kinds of services and you've had, um, some negative experiences with business owners in the past, then you've got some information here to kind of go forward with as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I think this is a really great start for people.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great. Jana, thanks for sharing all of
Oh,
your wisdom. I'm going to be thinking about how I can create this for myself. So I
hmm.
can maybe ask Sarah if she wants to take some of her content writing hours and turn it into maybe some social media repurposing as she creates the content. She's already creating it on the blog, so why not like
Yeah.
plug it in and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great. You'll be ahead of the game because you already have someone that knows your business and
Yeah,
knows your content. So really good.
great. Okay,
Some
well, we'll see you guys all back here. I
next
believe next
week.
week we got some content planning to do, but we'll have
We
some
do.
lives loaded in and ready for you to come and watch. Paula, thanks
Yeah.
so much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. Ooh, that was such a good chat. I really liked
Yeah.
that.
Oh, good. I think I might turn that one into a blog. I've always